name is Coco Villaluz. I am the American Indian Cancer Foundation Health Equity Manager. I am enrolled at the Mandan Hidatsa Rikra Nation, and then my dad is from Guam, so I'm half Native and half Chamorro. So it's really exciting to be here. I have been working in traditional tobacco for almost 20 years. My primary focus is really the reclamation and restoration of traditional tobacco and just focusing on our cultural lifeways. So what brought me to traditional tobacco work was working for our tribal community, but even before that I was working with the school systems and drug and alcohol treatment centers, and I wanted to really focus on the prevention holistic side. And so that's really kind of where my passion and love started with this, because we know all of like the current dangers and the rates, but really what is at the true core of like our hearts and our minds, and us as people and our communities, no matter what background, what was the focus of that? And so with the traditional tobacco work, it's kind of funny because I went and I was visiting one of the elders on the Blackfeet Nation, and just asked them and offered tobacco just to provide some teachings and share with me. And they were just like, well, you put it out in the open and things are going to start happening. You kind of made this vow in front of the sun, and just start growing from there. And that was really just a transformative time, because I just started going to more ceremonies, learning more teachings from different people across the country on their different traditional tobacco protocols, and making that distinction, right? Because we all know commercial tobacco, the harms, the diseases, I'm sure all of us have been impacted from, just the death and disease. But there's another side, and really focusing on the original intention of it. It's such a special gift. It was given to us by Creator. And so just really honing in on that piece and honoring and learning. And I got to share a funny story, because one time we were at a cultural camp in Poplar. It was like Native American Week, and one of the elders who I just adore, and he's on his journey, was Shep Ferguson. And I was asking about the Shinshasha, and he's like, okay, we'll talk about Shinshasha. And then, he went, I thought he went to lunch, but in reality he was getting some red willow for me. And he came back with this big bunch, and he started to show me how to, harvest it, and taking the outer layer out, and then, really paying attention to that inner bark. And when he was done, he's like, okay, you try. So I was like, okay. So I gave it a couple goes, and then he's like, you got to finish this. You can't go to sleep until you finish this. And I was like, okay, was he telling the truth? Like, was he just joking with me? What does he mean? So I took that literally, and I went and I stayed up all night. I went to work the next day, and I'm really harvesting that bunch. I did not go to sleep, because that's what he told me. And in the meantime, I was like, what was that lesson? Is he teaching me patience? Is he teaching me about the process, honoring this medicine? And so working with that plant, it just really helped me to have a deeper understanding in my relationship to tobacco, what that means, how we go, and we don't start our days without offering, just being thankful for another day, or for asking for prayers, or just wisdom for our elders. And in my time of this 20 years, I've really learned just so many ways and how people do that. And I just, can't be more grateful enough for all the teachers who taught me that. So that's kind of been some of my journeys. And, in the time that we're in, really taking a step back, we're running 1,000,000 miles a minute, like with kids, and focusing on social media, and what does that have to do with tobacco? And taking a step back and taking a breath. I'm really encouraging people to do meditation, whether it's just counting into the count of 4, where you're breathing in, you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhaling like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very simple. You can go slower. My kids are always like, you're talking too fast, but taking that step back. And another thing I would love to encourage people is, when you're feeling stressed, taking that breath. But then as we're doing this work with tobacco or any issue, focusing on just like doodling, taking out a piece of paper like this, taking whatever you have access to, pencil, paper, markers, whatever. You can make your own. I'm all about creativity. And so, just closing your eyes, taking a breath. And when it comes to tobacco, thinking about like, what was your first memory of tobacco, whether that was traditional or commercial tobacco, visualizing that. And I think too, with where we're at, we're so glued to our computers, but just taking a breath. Where are you at? Where would you like to go? Where would you like to be? And having that moment. It's easier said than done, but I really encourage just for our overall well-being. And thinking about the Chante project, it's connecting to the hearts and the minds and what that looks like. And walking the earth, going outside. I know it's 30 below sometimes, but just getting that breath of fresh air, I think that will really make a difference in how we go. And tobacco has been one of those forward moving kind of vehicles to help me in just taking that step back and I'm gonna go offer and being in that moment, or whether I'm gonna smudge, being in that moment. And so if you're in the middle of chaos, if you just even want to park your car, take a breath. Like I encourage that no matter what issue you're working on, if it's an issue or you just need that moment. And even just taking that moment to offer your tobacco, I feel like that can set you and like refresh you and reground you. And that's really what my focus is about too, is taking care of our whole selves, because of all of the things that we're encompassing. Like we live in a unique world, unique times. Like you guys are suffering through a global pandemic, but you're surviving through this global pandemic. So I just think that alone, we're coming out in a victory. So, just taking that time and being mindful is something that we can all do for ourselves. When you guys are wanting to just find that time to meditate, I definitely encourage just take a deep breath, right? You can count into 4, exhale through 4. But there's so many other great examples and opportunities. You can go to YouTube. There's different apps such as Calm app, Insight Timer, and literally you could type in if you're having anxiety or you just want to have this music. There's so many different opportunities for you guys to find what works. If you are a mom like me, I have 4 kiddos, and just like the hustle and bustle of practices and schools, I go to the YouTube, and there's like different fun things like Cosmic Kids Yoga where she's acting like a troll, or Pokemon, and doing that mindfulness with my kids, because I want them to also take a breath. So I just encourage you guys have the World Wide Web at your fingertips, but then also thinking about the World Wide Web of Mother Earth, right? You think of the roots and going out there and walking the earth, touching the earth. That in itself too is completely healing, and gets back to just like our heart, thinking about the drum, thinking about the beats of what that means. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Just take a breath. Like as simple as that is. So there's so many opportunities to connect with. There's online classes. Literally Google mindfulness, meditation, yoga. Yoga I know is not, people are like, oh, it's stretching, slow down, but yoga connects you to your breath. It's good for your overall internal well-being. So I just encourage you, just, expand. You can do it with others. You can do it, by yourself, whatever you're most comfortable with and wanting to do for yourself, for self-care. I just encourage that so much.